This episode is sponsored by Chapman & Company.
Hi there and welcome to the Coffee Grinds, hosted by Mug.News. We are your baristas, Justin Krug
and Caitlin Clays. We have a great menu today that highlights impressive student entrepreneurs in Middle America.
So grab a cup of coffee and let's get to the grind.
What is up? Welcome to Coffee Grinds, hosted by Mug.News, where we interview young entrepreneurs, founders, and startup creators. I am your barista, Caitlin Clays, presenting our flavor of the day, Emily Kist. So let's get to the grind. Emily, thank you so much for stopping by the coffee shop today.
Hey, Caitlin, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Great. So why don't you go ahead and spill the beans on what you're up to in the entrepreneurship community?
Yeah, for sure. So a little bit of background about myself, originally from Pierce, South Dakota, and I'm currently a junior finance major at the University of Nebraska Lincoln. So I'll be graduating in May of 2022. Super excited about that. However, I've recently become heavily involved in the entrepreneurial community in the greater Lincoln area, a little bit of the Omaha area as well, just through various internships and leadership in a bunch of different extracurricular activities. So,
yeah, sure thing. So then what inspired you to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, great question. So like I just mentioned, I was plugged into the entrepreneurship community about, I'd say, a year and a half ago, starting with an internship with the Nebraska Angels, which is a nonprofit organization of local angel investors that work to connect Midwestern startup companies to those angel investors. And so that was my first introduction into the community. And ever since, I've been super heavily inspired and impacted by the community here in Nebraska. So with that first internship at Nebraska Angels, I was introduced and super fortunate to have a corporate VC, so venture capital internship with Nelnet. And I've been working with Nelnet now for, I want to say about 10 months, I think we're going on. So I got to see the corporate side of innovation and entrepreneurship in Nebraska through those introductions. And then also I started to get very heavily involved in some of the clubs on campus. So for example, right now, as of last June, I started serving as the Chief Financial Officer for Startups UNL, which is a relatively new entrepreneurship club on our campus. As of like 2018 is when we were founded. And so we're growing super fast. We're growing just like a startup, and it's one of my most passionate projects that I'm working on. And I think all of those organizations together have really inspired me on my own entrepreneurial journey. I wouldn't technically call myself an entrepreneurship quite yet. It's in the career pathway for sure, but I am working on a lot of side projects that I think really contribute to that.
Mm-hmm. So then, I can tell you're very passionate about the work you do. It really shows about how you're explaining more about the businesses you work with. Mm-hmm. So then I was wondering, are you working with any upcoming events or projects with Nebraska Angels or Nelnet?
So with Nebraska Angels and Nelnet, not any particular events coming up in that space, but I have literally so many communities for students that are in the works right now, especially given things that's happening with the pandemic. I think there's been a greater shift to more online connection and opportunities for students. So there's several organizations that I've personally been working with. And so one of those is University of Nebraska Omaha and their Center for Entrepreneurship. So with Startups UNL, we're directly plugged in with the UNL Center for Entrepreneurship. A lot of parallels there, but we're trying to build a community between Omaha and Lincoln for the students, right? So I've been working with their amazing team over there, trying to get some events set up and more communication lines going both ways. But aside from that as well, within our Startups UNL team, we've had some really exciting growth for our students. I think we're up to over 100 members in the online group chats that we have. And with the in-person events that we can have due to the pandemic, we've been able to bring students together to either share ideas, make connections or new friends or even business partners, which is super exciting to see. And also advertise small businesses, sell our products, and even join some really cool entrepreneurship competitions. And then lastly, one of the exciting ones that I'm working on right now is called the Young Entrepreneurs Summit. So this is a Slack community that was created by students in the Midwest. And we do have a networking event coming up on March 26th. However, so this is also a very new organization, a lot of new stuff coming up, which is great. But this is a community we're building out to connect everyone in the Midwest that's interested. So I think the nice part about having these online communities is there's no limit to participation or no limit to people that are involved. So those are some of the exciting things that are going on within my community.
So then a side question I have, those events and those communities that you've been building, do you think they would have been built whether or not COVID happened? Because these are online and virtual events. So I was curious where your head's at.
Fantastic question too. I mean, I think it is a mix of the pandemic and also just really great timing with some awesome students on our campus. So, and around the Midwest. And I think the awesome people that I'm working with on our executive team for Startups UNL, for example, are doing great at getting connected with students at other schools and generating all these ideas of how we can build a greater community. So the pandemic accelerates that with all this new online communication, webinars, virtual networking events. And it's amazing to see how many ideas we can come up with, but also what we can actually execute on.
So then, we're hitting a bunch of different topics. And so the next question I wanted to ask, is there adequate support from your community regarding entrepreneurship and all these events that you're doing and with your internships as well?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, I'm probably a little bit more interested in the venture capital side of entrepreneurship and creating funding opportunities for startups and small businesses. So I think specifically in regards to Nebraska, we're getting there with all of these great opportunities. I think we're so close, especially with the growth that I've seen this year alone, just because Nebraska is not necessarily considered maybe like a target state for nearly as many resources and opportunities as maybe the coasts might see. But I think that can be particularly frustrating for students when we're looking for guidance or encouragement to start our own entrepreneurial journeys. So when I started that Nelnet venture capital internship, I got to see, I was working 40 hours a week experiencing the Nebraska ecosystem and then comparing it to the work I was doing at a national and even a global scale. And so that really inspired me to create opportunities for students specifically in venture capital. So an exciting project I'm working on right now is building the Husker Venture Fund in partnership with the College of Business at UNL. And our vision, so 10 months down the road, this started last May, we're actually fundraising right now to support our vision, just to create a distinguished hands-on investment experience where UNL students will be able to foster relationships in the startup community. They can also engage with the Nebraska and Midwest entrepreneurial opportunities and also fund homegrown innovative ideas and solutions. So a lot of inspiration has come from maybe, I don't want to say lack of support, because there definitely is an outstanding community, but it's in that growth stage, right?
For sure, definitely. So thank you so much for sharing that input. That's one of the things we love to hear, especially it's just a very honest answer, because if we're not honest with ourselves, we can't really make a bunch of improvements. So
right.
It sounds like you're on a right track though. So thanks a ton for sharing a little bit more about that. And then, kind of getting to the end of the conversation, we always like to ask a really fun question. And that would be, if you or your work organization were a coffee, what would it be?
This is such an excellent question. I drink coffee every day. So for context, my go-to order is always iced coffee, despite the seasons, the temperature, the occasion. I've got my iced coffee on me right now. But I think I've probably taken a BuzzFeed quiz at some point on Twitter about this specific question. And I remember being told I was a latte, and I'm not too sure that I vibed so much with that. However, they did say that I'm usually, like the quiz gave me the results that said I'm usually the type of person who knows how to calm everyone down, which is actually the feedback that I get from time to time from my friends and colleagues, specifically in those organizations that I'm involved in. And I'm always constantly surrounded by incredibly high achieving, entrepreneurial focused students. And so I tend to serve that role of being like that analytical thinker that helps solve those important issues that we're all bound to face. So I think that would be my answer.
Very nice. We always love a little bit of a balance. So,
Yes.
That is all the time we have for today. So thank you so much for sharing more information about your blend of hard work, Emily. You can find out more about what they do through the links in the menu description, or you can go to mug.news to see their feature article. Make sure to leave a comment and subscribe to mug.news for more hot takes like this one. We will see you next time at the Coffee Grinds.